officially on Facebook. I haven't met her, but I did learn a few things about her. So I'm going to read her list to me because it's like a poem. I like to carry things on my head. I procrastinate by memorizing Rilke poems in German. I've been to Machu Picchu and Pompeii and a monster truck rally. This is my personal favorite because I also have a cat who is smarter than she thinks she is. I have a cat, he used to walk into walls and falls off TVs, but now seems smarter, and I think it's because we encouraged him that he can be anything he wants to be. Cat justice. I seem less able to tolerate the political atmosphere now than a decade ago. I can relate. If I could have a disastrous marriage with any famous dead writer, it would be, any guesses? Anyone? Yes, Hemingway, that's right. It's either one of those, yeah. Fitzgerald was a good guess, but it is Hemingway. In high school, quote, I played a gingerbread child in the chorus of Hansel and Gretel at Seattle Opera, and also an angel who wore a very large curly blonde wig and arrived on Earth via a 20-foot golden slide, end quote. So as for Suzanne Morrison's real bio, her first memoir, Yoga Bitch, One Woman's Quest to Conquer Skepticism, Cynicism, and Cigarettes on the Path to Enlightenment, was published by Random House Three Rivers Press in August 2011 and will be translated into many languages, including Dutch, German, Russian, Hebrew, and Serbian. Yeah, that's awesome. This memoir was also named a must-read by the Los Angeles Times and New York Magazine and was one of Crosscut's best Northwest books of 2011. Yoga Bitch had its start as a long-running one-woman show of the same title, which played in New York, London, across the country, and around the world. A 2009 and 2010 recipient of Four Culture and Artist Trust grants for solo performance, Suzanne is developing a new show, Optimism, about her adolescent fascination with Ted Bundy, who was a friend of her parents. And she's at work on a new memoir, Your Own Personal Alcatraz, about coming of age on an island near Seattle and the perils of love. You can find Suzanne at the Huffington Post, where she blogs about the reading life, and at her own blog, where she writes about absolutely everything she's reading, writing, and rehearsing. Please welcome Suzanne Morrison. I'm nervous as shit because those first three writers were so awesome and so funny, and it's an honor, honestly, to be this nervous on this stage because I'm proud of our city. I'm proud of these great writers that come out and entertain us, and I'm so grateful to be here. I'm especially grateful to Brian McGuigan because he just gives me one chance after another to disgrace myself and my family in front of his audiences. It's always funny to me, these readings, because there's always so many correspondences between the pieces, and so my head is kind of exploding a little bit right now about that. But I just wanted to tell you one small thing about how I wrote this. I wrote this story 2 weeks ago. This is like brand spanking new, which is I think why I'm so nervous about it. Brand new story. I wrote it 2 weeks ago in New Orleans in a bathroom of my hotel room at 4:30 in the morning with only one eye that worked, which is a story I'll tell you later. And then I finished it this morning at 5 o'clock in the morning with two eyes in my own bedroom, actually. I was not in a bathroom again. So that's the story of the story, and brand new. So we'll see how this goes. This is called The Oldest, Meanest, Ugliest Fishes in the Sea.
They had captured every moment of Sarla's 40th birthday party on Sammy's phone, tagging each of their friends, as well as their old theater company's memorial fan page. There were pictures of Sarla in her robe, emerging like Venus from the Russian spa where they had spent her big day, pictures of glistening bowls of boon and lychee martinis, of Sammy slinking about the karaoke stage singing Betty Davis Eyes. Now, finally, they had lost the last of the killjoys who had sitters to relieve, and were back at Sarla's Capitol Hill apartment, where the two of them set about appraising their friend's gravest flaws. They agreed that Matt and Robin, the old married couple in the group, were ridiculously codependent. It was too cute by half, nauseating, really, the way they each ate half their food before swapping plates. They laughed about Travis and Michael, who had adopted a child from Taiwan and since had taken to posting passive-aggressive status updates on Facebook about Michael's habit of shirking diaper duty. Which brought them, at last, to Lucinda, who had once been Sammy's theatrical muse, playing each of his enraged female leads with a sort of smoldering, unhinged sexuality, but who now couldn't be bothered to leave her new baby at home even for a meal with old friends. She's like a billboard for what not to do after having a child, Sammy said. Sarla would have liked to disagree with Sammy. She wanted to be on the side of all mothers, those exhausted women who would never please anyone again. But Sammy was just winding up to perform one of his opinions, and she couldn't help but want to listen. Look at her, Sammy said. Lucinda has gone from being so glamorous, so funny, to being, a mom. Short, sensible haircut, no makeup, flat leather shoes that a nun would think just a bit too plain to please God. Lesbianic is the term, I'm afraid. I can't be seen with her, though I suppose the child is charming. That's so rude, Sarla said. Lesbianic? Are you serious? Are you allowed to talk like that? Of course I am, he said. It's my job to describe reality. That's what it's there for, to be described. Good Lord, she said. At least straight men have learned what they can and cannot say, but you guys, she said, pointing at Sammy, you guys think you've earned the right to insult everybody just because you're both victimized and male. Fuck you guys, she said. Fuck you gay guys. Sammy smirked. Wouldn't you just love to? He said. Sarla had a history of such things. Just that evening, Sammy had finally met Sarla's ex-husband, a man she had married during her junior year of college in Eastern Washington. She had attended the tiny Christian liberal arts college there with plans to become a drama major, but ended up with a degree in Christian theatrical improv. A degree Sarla insisted was real. Sammy had seen her ex as he entered the restaurant that night and had whispered to her that she had been brainwashed by those rednecks to the east. Anyone from the city would have been able to tell from 3 counties away that that man was about as straight as a slinky. Sarla had insisted that they just thought he was artistic. Hey, Sarla cried. Now, he said. Those 15 years of your life were well spent if you can just get your act together and write a memoir about it. Cash in, Sarla, and we can both quit our temp jobs. I don't want to have sex with gay men. I know. Neither do I. I would need Lewis and Clark to locate someone to sleep with I could actually bear to talk to. No, those days are over. No one will have me, and it's unlikely I'll ever have sex again. There was a brief silence. Sarla took a deceptively demure sip of her wine. Me too, she said, shrugging, and they both laughed. But about Lucinda, Sammy said, she always had that potential, to let herself go. A few pounds, a momentary fit of frazzled abandon at the hairdresser's, and she becomes Seattle mom, a bemusing destiny. I'm thinking about writing a play about her. About Lucinda? No, about her type, and her opposite, East Side mom. You'll play her. Oh, goody, Sarla said. Seattle mom, he said, languidly circling his pointer finger in the direction of the wine bottle till Sarla responded and refilled his glass, is Lucinda, the deflated beauty, chained to her child and her now child-centered views. To the east, however, the mom across the waters, total opposite. East Side mom is like my cousin Gina, the woman who votes Republican because her husband does, who watches reality TV without irony and takes very seriously the hair and nails and shoes and short dresses and pneumatic breasts of the real housewives of wherever the fucking who gives a good goddamn. This is the mom who understands that she is just a few pounds away from walking in on her husband stooping the nanny, or the trainer at the gym, or her best friend who looks just like her but went to dial grander on the breast enhancement. This is the woman who goes to Ruth's Chris and wants to dress for her gourmet supper, wants her fake blonde hair straight as Asia and her skin a dark Palm Springs gold. She is pasty. No. Meanwhile, Seattle mom has taste, real taste, about everything but her own person. She is pasty. She is thick. And she is full of righteous opinions about co-sleeping and cloth diapers. And she's just so icky, he said. I mean, who would fuck her? You did, Sarla said. He stared coolly as she did her little happy dance in her seat. College, he said. I would have made love with a Sasquatch if there was enough ecstasy on hand. Sarla said, I love tall men. Anyway, he said, that's the idea. Two characters separated by a deep, cold lake. On the bottom, prehistoric fish care nothing about any of them. They just churn the silt and watch the decades pass. So you're a poet, Sarla said, stretched out sideways in the overstuffed chair. Her dance had exhausted her. What? She gestured dismissively. The bit about the fish. Oh, that. No, I just think about those fucking fish all the time, don't you? What fish? What fucking fish? Sturgeon. He shivered. My God, doesn't the word just give you the creeps? Remember the one that floated up to the surface? In her enthusiasm, she jumped to proper seated posture too quickly and almost spilled her wine. Drunk, she was, in truth. She just loved drinking. In Sarla's deepest heart, all she wanted was for Sammy never to leave and the bottle never to be empty and for all of eternity to be just drunk enough, which she was at just that very moment. She glowed with a perfect tawny buzz. But think about it, he said. That fish was like 30 feet wide. It was bigger than several cars put together. It's like I'm thirsty, he said. Will you pass me that wine? She passed it with joy. You're a lush, she said. A sturgeon, he said. Are you fucking kidding me? And so they went on for quite some time. His mother was the one who had first told Sammy about the fish at the bottom of Lake Washington. At Seafair, the year Sammy had turned 9, his mother had warned him not to swim in the middle of the lake. Don't you even think about jumping out of this boat, she had said, showing off a bit for the men gathered around the glossy bar on deck, colleagues from her husband's commodities firm. It's a very pretty lake, she said, but ugly creatures are tangled in its depths. In the deepest parts of this lake, there's nothing but a green forest of underwater weeds and silver fish the size of great white sharks. Fish with spiny backs, terribly old fish. Pterodactyls, that's how old. The oldest living thing in the region, older than Mount Rainier, older than Chief Seattle, older than Pike Place Market. His mother had liked to drink too. But what were you going to say about your girlfriend? Sarla finally said, tired of fishes. Who? Lesbianic. He sighed. Well. And here's where he had to pretend a little bit, so as not to reveal too much, such as the nights spent trawling Lucinda's Facebook page for clues about her life, the pictures of her wedding in Italy, a wedding Lucinda had told him he could attend, but only if he got his act together, which he hadn't done. She had married an Italian man, a graphic designer who, from the looks of his suit and shoes, should have been able to warn her about that haircut. He had the sort of style Sammy's brother would have referred to as Euro weenie. A look Sammy admired and had long tried to cultivate, saving up for good leather shoes and slacks of fine, lightweight wool. Sturgeon, he said. Big fucking fishes. But he was thinking about yesterday, how he had spent 3 hours on Lucinda's Facebook page, drunk, annoyed. Lately, he had become aware of a certain rush of goodwill he felt towards himself when liking certain posts on Facebook. And since then, he hadn't been able to like anything without loathing himself. So there she was, posting gorgeous pictures of her life with her unfortunate new haircut. And all he did was employ a sort of knee-jerk, pathetic liking, which he did for all his friends' pictures. Those albums of gorgeous anniversary adventures, wide-eyed toddlers smeared with peaches and creamed spinach, triumphant, glowing new mothers emerging from their befouled birthing tubs, holding their new life's purpose. He liked them all, even if, in truth, they made him sick. The relentlessness of his friends' joy, the relentlessness of their public gratitude for their great, good lives. He missed the days when he couldn't spend much time online because he suffered from dial-up and thus was forced to maintain an inner life. Now, he feared he might spend the rest of his life in a dark room, stalking his old friends, watching them become people he no longer recognized. That's it, he said, believing himself to have thought out loud. That's why this doesn't make any sense at all. She wasn't supposed to become so earnest after her firstborn child. The Lucinda I know was supposed to ripen, become enriched and softened by the child, sure. Maybe she'd wear a bit less makeup or ballet flats instead of heels, and maybe she'd develop an endearing sort of neurotic exhaustion that would make her say sweet, sarcastic nothings to the child. She was supposed to say, "Oh, poor you, it's so hard to be a baby," when the child cried. She was supposed to say, "Mommy's having a drink with Uncle Sammy, little one, so you are going to get your chemicals tonight," while handing him the formula. Instead, she is this close to posting pictures of breast milk popsicles on the crack book. He sighed heavily. Whoever invented motherhood as a culture should be shot. Sarla appeared to be losing consciousness in the overstuffed chair. She looked great, all crapped out in her opal-sequined summery top. Her shorts were very short and ivory, and she had smooth, creamy legs, long and smooth, with a golden sheen in the low lamplight. Sarla would never have a child. The thought made him feel cozy and warm. "I love that about you," he said. "What's that?" "That you'll never have kids. Thank God you won't ever have kids." She sat up dumbly, blinked. "Please don't thank God for that," she said. "I don't." He had to tread carefully, he realized. This was the time of night when Sarla's ecclesiastical yearnings sometimes got the better of her. But Sarla was thinking about how the last time she saw Lucinda over brunch at Glow's, she had looked tired but cute with her little pixie haircut, and her child smiled so easily, his mouth wet and rose-colored, his breath so sweet she might have swooned. That's what Sarla was thinking. But her mouth felt dry suddenly by comparison, so she winched herself up to stand and tilted headfirst into the tiny kitchen just off the living room, looking for the emergency bottle of red, the cheap one intended for the latest hour when the taste buds had been bludgeoned and the stomach could take on the cheap acid joylessness of dive bar red. With it, she returned, carrying bread and cheese. "Ballast," she said, carelessly depositing the loot on the glass coffee table. With the flaking end of the slender gluten-free baguette, she knocked over Sammy's water glass. She'd had sort of a novel thought in the kitchen, the sort of thought Sammy loved. "You're like Sophie's Choice," she said. "What?" "Sophie's Choice, with the two babies and the choice, you know? Who lives, who dies, mother hates herself forever. Meryl Streep, come on." "Right, so how am I Sophie's Choice?" "Well, there's the part in the book." "You read a book?" "I did, Sammy. I read a whole entire book." "It was audio." "Yeah, okay, so I listened to a book. But there's this part where he talks about how the Polacks..." They both giggled, and Sarla inhaled too quickly and choked on her wine. When she recovered, she sat up straighter, carefully swiping her fourth finger along her lower lashes. "Do I have eyeliner everywhere?" she said. Her voice was hoarse. "You're fine. So, the Poles hate the Jews, right? And where the narrator comes from is the South." "The South," Sammy said. "I love that, like it's a place." "Right. So, he says that the Poles hate Jews and the Souths hate blacks. Southerners, dear." "I'm drunk, Sammy. Southerners." "Right. So the Southerners hate those black folks, and the Poles hate the Jews." "Yes, I get it. Focus, Sarling, focus." "And it's because they're poor. The haters, I mean." "Okay. They're poor and miserable because of Europe, and because of Yankees." "Yes," he said. "So they hate other people." "Revolutionary," he said. "Sarla, this wine tastes like a fetid sock. What is this?" "Anyway, you're a gay, Sammy. Your family hates you, and so you hate, like, everyone." He thought about contradicting her, but he wasn't sure he wanted to go into it. But he knew his family didn't hate him because he was gay. He knew it. It likely had more to do with the Christmas dinner when he told his mother's twin sister, after she had unfurled her annual scroll of family grievances, that her unhappiness in life had little to do with her ungrateful children and more to do with her walnut-sized brain and reptilian character. A character, he had hastened to mention, she shared with her twin. He had been on just the teensiest amount of Christmas cocaine to see him through the family's dour festivities. And he reminded Sarla of the story with a well-loved phrase. My habit told the family to suck it, remember? But you haven't done drugs in 3 years, Sarla said. I'll drink to that, Sammy replied. But they still hate you. Don't you think if you were straight, they would have forgiven you by now? No, as a matter of fact, well, maybe. He paused to think. Have you fucking seen a sturgeon? He picked up his phone. You've got to see one of these fuckers. Sammy, come on, she said. I want to talk. Okay, he said. You were saying. I was saying. What was I saying? That I hate everyone? Yes. He grinned suddenly, as if tickled. But I don't, you see. I just hate Lucinda's haircut. Oh, and children. She made a gesture that told him she had lost a significant percentage of her motor skills, and a sound that seemed all at once to say that he was ridiculous, and that her mouth tasted disgusting, and that she had an overabundance of spit. I don't hate you, though, he said, but I would if you'd turned out like everybody else. How's that, she said. You mean if I had had a real marriage? He clapped. Oh, hey, I forgot. I also hate Christians. She nodded, annoyed. Yes, I know. And you'd better not get remarried, Sammy said, or I'll hate you too. But you won't have kids at least, thank God. Please don't thank God for that. I can't help it, he said. If there was a God, I would send him a fucking fruit basket. I'm so grateful. And you should be grateful too, really. Can you imagine if you'd had a kid with that twink? Well, what? Do you expect me to take some sort of comfort in that? No, he said, I expect you to have another drink, which you can do, think about it, because you don't have a baby. She stared at him across the table. You know better, Sammy. Knock it off. Come on, he said, everybody has kids. Can you name one of our friends, gay or straight, who doesn't have a fucking child? How many showers have you been invited to this year? It's an epidemic. Sammy, she said, shaking her head prettily, I'm never going to have the one thing that could have made me happy, and you're acting like I should be glad. No, sweetie, but you look great, and also, who cares if I look great? She cried. Who cares if I look great? I do, Sammy said. Yes, she said, splashing back against her seat. Of course you do. What's that supposed to mean? Oh, she said, reaching for the lousy bottle of wine and tossing a few ounces in the direction of her glass. I just don't think you know anything about happiness or about unconditional love. Well, if you really think a baby would have made you happy, Sarla, I would like to introduce you to my therapist, who agrees with me that I was once a baby and that my parents are not happy. And that there actually is no happiness in the world, inherently. There is only chemistry and chemicals, some of which you might need to be on if you actually think that some wriggling lump of human flesh would have made you happy. Sammy, what the fuck do you want from me? I want you to say I'm right. Okay, you're right. But no, you're not right. You're not. I won't agree with you, and I won't thank God for the way things have turned out, and I won't lie and pretend that I would rather be here with you than at home with my husband and a baby. Sammy said nothing, just pressed his lips together and mopped up the spilled water with a crumbling crust of bread. Shit, I'm sorry, Sarla finally said. No, it's hilarious, he said, still mopping. You'd rather be with a husband who won't touch you, who wouldn't give you a baby. You'd rather spend every night praying that you will magically transform your man into your suburban wet dream. It's hilarious, Sarla. Then let's see, in that perfect universe you've created, he'll give you that baby, right? Who will love you unconditionally until, whoops, until it actually starts to talk, at which point you might find out that you don't even like your child, or that your child doesn't like you. No child loves their parents unconditionally, Sarla. That's crazy talk. Even Jesus couldn't have loved his parents unconditionally. I mean, look how badly they fucked him up. That's ridiculous. Maybe, but I am my own point. Once a baby starts talking, you have no idea the shit he's going to say. By all accounts, I was an adorable baby till I started using my words. She snorted. But look, Sarla, look at the day we've had. We've had drinks. We've been to the spa. You sang that song about how you touch yourself when you think about me. If you ask me, this is how to have a good 40th birthday. You celebrate having escaped the prison of biology and tribal bondage, and you welcome with open arms the perimenopausal decade to come. She was weeping. Sarla, he said. Come on, Sarla. She sniffed. Okay then, so where are you supposed to be then, Sarla, if my company is such a disappointment? Never mind. Never mind? Yeah. Sarla, what the fuck? If you want to say something, just say it. I don't have anything to say. She said this very loudly. He responded at the top of his voice, Sarla, lower your voice! And then, still louder, what the fuck do you have to say to me? She sat up. She sat quickly, soberly, intently. Later, Sammy would write this moment into his play about mothers, describing the character as returning from the dead to deliver one final pronouncement. You, Sarla said, are such a judgy McMotherfucker. Do you think I want to be here with you on my 40th birthday, listening to you rip everyone I like to shreds? This isn't how it was supposed to be for me. I am supposed to be married. I am supposed to have a baby. No, I am supposed to have 4 babies that love me. And I am supposed to be married to a man who believes in God and family and in Sunday dinner with our parents and Thanksgiving and Christmas and who prays at night with our babies that they sleep well and wake up well. And I just wish that you would shut the fuck up about women with babies, because it's hard having babies and sometimes these women just need to cut their fucking hair. She sniffed and sniffed again, and for a moment she looked so imperious, Sammy thought she might continue her speech in a British accent. Instead, she let loose a terrible wail, crying out, "And I really wanted Alexis!" Alexis? Seriously? She nodded, taking in short gasps of air. I always wanted one of those white Lexus SUVs. They're very safe, and you can fit up to 3 car seats in them at once. Sammy nodded, and they fell into a long silence. Sammy lifted the soggy baguette from the coffee table and delivered it to the kitchen, where he dropped it in the lined garbage can with the forbearance of a saint. He remained in the kitchen long enough to wipe down the rings of red wine on the old marble countertops, and then he spent several minutes washing his hands, noticing how the water heated up slowly, then all at once became almost too hot, how his hands turned red and plump as he rehearsed what he would say when he returned to the living room. Oh, the things he would say. He was going to speak of choices, of the beds we make and then lie in. He had several sentences to throw at her about how friendship, for him, was a sacred bond and deeper than any mother-child relationship ever could be, because it was a chosen relationship, not an accidental one. He was going to say something about big cars as well and their effect on the environment. But when he returned to the living room, his audience had fallen asleep. He drifted, deflated, into Sarla's bedroom and lay down on the bed. He wasn't sure what had happened tonight, if anything had just happened. He lay on top of the covers, wide awake, his body rigid with what felt like anger, but he recognized as fear. He had a vision of himself at 42 or 43, alone in his darkened bedroom, scanning Sarla's Facebook page, liking pictures of her new family, her new car, her new life. He rehearsed the vision so many times it began to seem like a prophecy. He lay there like that, rehearsing his vision again and again, until the ceiling blurred above him and he wept. In the morning, he squinted at his body in the mirror over Sarla's bureau, his arms stretched above his head so he could see all the worming veins in his shoulders and arms as if they had been shot up with a blue-green dye. His head was full of sand, his stomach with eels. "Sarla," he croaked. Nothing. "Sarla! We need food, Sarling dear." He walked carefully from the bedroom to find Sarla curled like a potato bug on the big overstuffed chair. An eel tickled his uvula. He coughed, kneeling by Sarla's head. "Sarla, Sarla, we must hurry, Sarla." She needed a crowbar to separate her eyelids. "So hungry," she said. "We can do this, Sar," he said. He slung her arm over his shoulder and dragged her injured body to the little bathroom, chuffing and wheezing and gagging. He ran the cold water, attempted and failed to splash her face, and then gave up and gently wiped her cheeks and eyes with a washcloth. Her complexion was a lovely peachy gold like a nectarine. Her mascara thus tidied, she peered at him, wide-eyed and trembling. "Now what?" she said. "I'm going to close this door, Sarla," he said, slowly, deliberately, "and you are going to use this room however you need to, but quickly." Got that? She nodded, and he shut the door. Half an hour later, they were walking on their way to Glow's for brunch. The air carried a chill threat of fall. "We did some damage last night," Sarla said. "That we did," Sammy replied. "I think I'm still drunk." "Good, then you'll be charming over brunch." Sarla stopped suddenly at the corner of Bellevue and Olive. "Sammy, wait," she said. "We need to change course. I need a Bloody Mary." He gave her a long, appraising look. "Oh, you are right about that," he said. "You need a bloody IV drip." She sighed and leaned against him. "Oh, wouldn't that be wonderful?" He studied Sarla's face. "You know," he said, "you actually look rather fresh, considering the insalubrity of our last 24 hours. "It's the hemorrhoid cream," she said. He laughed. "Excuse me? It sort of tightens everything up." His expression didn't change, but it was lit up suddenly by something like awe. "You okay?" she said. "Yeah," he said. "It's just when I think about women putting hemorrhoid cream on their faces, I can't help but think that there might actually be a God. And if there is, Sarla, he is laughing." The idea had to wade through ditches of dead and dying brain cells in Sarla's skull before hitting a good jolt of electricity. But then she giggled. "Oh, God, Sammy," she said, "I can't believe the shit you say. So where should we go?" He retrieved his phone from his pocket and turned it on. "What the fuck?" he said. "Why is there a sturgeon on my phone?" She peered over his shoulder. "God, that fish is huge," she said. "Didn't you tell me they're in Lake Washington? Your dad caught one or something?" His stomach churned, cold and wet. "Did we talk about sturgeon last night?" He knew very well the answer to this question. He could have reproduced the evening's dialogue that instant if Sarla had offered him a pen and paper. "Oh, my God, I think we did," she said. "We talked about them all night." He sighed, caressing his phone over to Google. "Oh, Sarla, thank God one of us remembers last night." She could only laugh, nodding helplessly, and took his arm. They walked up the hill like that, arm in arm, talking happily, as if they were best friends, which, of course, they were. Thank you.